John Pollono, welcome to An Actor's Spares. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
It's good to have you back, man. How are you doing?
It's good to be back. Been
We're
a while.
here. It's been it's weird thinking that time I came out to see the film, man, it was like that the last few months before the world ended, sort of, so to speak, and man, you know how much this narrative has been a huge part of my life and how much it's changed mine and what a big fan I am of the play. And for those listening, I highly recommend that you read the play either before or after the film. And I think it'll give you an interesting lens into it. And I'm so excited that it's finally coming out, man. And the world gets to see it. And how do you feel, dude?
It's complicated. It's been so long, and it sucks that the pandemic sort of put a pause on things. But look, there are people suffering a lot worse than an indie film distribution. But I'm excited to get it out.
Yeah.
There's the pain of just getting it out after all this time and all this setup, and the release being so much different than how I had anticipated, which was like festivals and people in person. I mean, you saw like the only screening we did.
Yeah.
And you didn't even see a final film. And it was like low res, but it was just like, some family and friends to see it. That was, I'm so glad you got to see that. But
it was a great night, man.
We haven't had that opportunity. We did a drive-in, which was not, obviously it was really cool, but you're all separated. You're not feeling it. And, the movie, like the play, is very much designed for a communal experience.
100%.
And part of the fun is the dynamic shifting among the audience as the dynamic shifts in the play and in the movie. So, I'm really happy it's getting out. I just want it out there. I think, I just want people to discover it and hopefully see it safely in a theater while it runs in theaters, and then, just have it out there and, see what happes.
And for those listening, I got to say, this is part 2. We did part 1 literally right after that screening. And so it's, that was a very deep dive in that interview. So in this one, I wanted to go a little bit different direction, man.
Sure.
I'd love for you to talk about the process of, last time we spoke, you had done the film and we spoke a bit about the film, but I'd love to talk about the post process in a COVID pandemic and what that has done for you. And obviously the show is called An Actor Despairs. And for so long, there was just a gigantic fucking question mark around this business and when and if we could ever do the thing that we love to do, which is like, Broadway or a movie theater, and experience it with a fellow, peer or a stranger. I prefer strangers myself. And how do you navigate something like that when you got a pretty much like it was going to go to festival cut, right?
Yeah, we finished the final film, color timed at Technicolor, the morning that South by Southwest was canceled.
Yeah, fuck.
Which the writing was kind of on the wall. It initially was like, hey, this festival is coming up. I wonder if this COVID thing is gonna fuck it up. And then as we got closer, one of our producers who had a kidney transplant was like, listen, I'm so sorry, I'm not gonna be able to go. And we were heartbroken over that. And then like a week later, it was like, oh shit. And then we finished that morning, and they called it off. And look, the initial sting of that was dwarfed by the global pandemic,
of course.
But it's hard working so intensely and passionately on something and then sort of putting it on a virtual shelf. And then we sort of waited it out to see what was going to go on, and then obviously bigger things came up, and things got put on hold. I had a lot of projects that just got sort of frozen, but I just continue writing, continue working, sending the link out to friends, you filmmakers, people like that, very limited in scope, getting a little bit of feedback, an email, a conversation, which was nice, but obviously it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
And then we waited until it was like, well, shit, this thing's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
Let's, and I think within the industry, there's a little bit of a with the COVID gave you a little bit of a break, meaning if, our movie's coming out in 2021, even though we finished it in 2020, it doesn't seem stale. It's just like, yeah, this has happened to movies. Yeah. I think if we waited another season, it would have had a longer shelf life. maybe would have had that. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, you're cool.
Take a sip of my coffee.
Yeah.
Make a good cup of coffee. It would have maybe had that stigma of being like an older film. So, we started to send it out. We got really great interest, but the thing that bummed me out is like we never had that festival circuit, that like traveling, which I love going to film festivals. So many films I've loved have originated in that. And the sort of vision in my head of everyday making and in the darkest moments of production and all of that was like, I can't wait to have that first real screening of the final film, the final resolution, the final color timing, the final sound mix and everything. And to just have the lights go down, sit in a theater and experience it with strangers for the first, who are witnessing it for the first time, which as a playwright, I've gotten, that's the bread and butter of playwriting. That's the sort of goal. So look, when you write a screenplay, best case scenario, and you send it to the studio and then maybe a year and a half, 2 years, you're in an audience watching it. So it takes that long to get the feedback. Playwriting, it's all about the audience and forming it and workshopping and figuring out and refining the moments throughout previews. And then, the production moves and then you have a chance to, address certain things. So it's evolving. Yeah. It's constantly having that feedback loop with an audience. And this material obviously had that. So it was strange to have it like suddenly put on pause and be very proud of the work and be excited about that. So that sucked. Yeah. That you can't get that back. It's not coming back in a profound way. I mean, it seemed like, and then we sold to Vertical, who was super passionate about it, had all these great ideas for a rollout, which is awesome. And here we are, we're going to be on, I think, between 150 and 200 theaters. I mean, it's amazing. It's a dream come true.
That's insane.
But, and when we did that during a window, it was like vaccines come and people are going back to the movies. And now, we release next weekend and I don't know what that'll look like. I don't know how that will be. And I mean, all movies are suffering. So, it is what it is. But, you get that chance to kind of go out there and then we'll see. I mean, I think, you do a play, you got to see it in person, obviously. But this is something, I mean, look, people can discover it in the years to come and you sort of put it out there, it's just a different thing. Yeah. It's just a different sensation. Totally. And it's different than my expectations of, like I said, 3 a.m. you're fucking exhausted and you're like, oh shit, I just got to do this, because that light at the end of the tunnel is going to be in that audience, and me and John and Shay and everybody, Jennifer and everyone, we're all sitting there enjoying it and looking up on the screen and, just celebrating it. So it's hard not to have that.
Totally, man. That's so beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. And I'm curious, because a lot of the things that did get into South by and Tribeca, New York, did pull out, because they were, they tried to switch to virtual, which I personally think didn't work. And then in the following year, they did a hybrid thing. Were you just at that point done with the festival thing until, whatever this madness ends?
Well, at that point, we had already sold to Vertical. It's sort of a different thing. And, we got into South by, we had the laurels, so there was no other reason to do it. It's a little tricky in the streaming of movies for festivals. There's because they're not used to that. That's a precedent. So some of the language and some of the contracts, we've already streamed it for free, and it can fuck with your deal. Wow. But we didn't have a real need to do that. The Vertical's release strategy was much more ambitious than that. I think if festivals were healthy and doing the normal thing, I think we would have, invested more in that route, but it just wasn't to be. I mean, now they're kind of doing it a little more, I guess. Like Venice had a bunch of stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if people are going to that. I don't know what's going on there. It was too much of a risk, and we'd already been there and we were exhausted. So you had to bet on a horse. So we bet on this one.
Yeah, totally, man. And it's so interesting too, the social media element is not a spoiler by any means, and seeing it roll out for the promotion of this film and the kind of meta commentary on the whole thing is brilliant. And for those who are haven't seen or have seen, it's genius. And what I think that I wonder, is for something like this, man, did you have a strategy, a marketing plan, like an idea of how to market something like this? Because this piece is so unique and it's so its own and it's great. And I can imagine that a lot of motherfuckers are just so scared of just being safe these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, I had a great marketing department through Vertical, and we were very collaborative in that. But at the end of the day, they are the ones making those marketing decisions. You can make a great movie that's difficult to market, and you can make a shitty movie that's easy to market. So, this is a challenging movie to market because it's sort of multi-genre.
Yeah.
It's a slow burn. It's a number of things.
Bait and switch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's twisty.
Yeah.
It's really a very heartfelt drama with pitch black comedy, and then there's a thriller element, and it all sort of, it's like a slow burn. The play, and even more so, the movie was designed, to fit into like those great 70s movies that we all love so much, that were sort of, provocative and dangerous and funny and intense and thought-provoking and all that stuff. So that's hard to market. Hey, thought-provoking, all that shit. And I think they did a really good job in getting it out there. But, it's going to be word of mouth. I mean, I think like the play, it's like, you saw the play, and when we were off Broadway, and you went home and you were like, you look at your contacts and you're like, oh, I know, Mary would love this. Yeah, Joe would love this. Like Nancy, she's a little, she probably is not her thing, but and then that's when you start getting the audience that really gravitates towards it. It's like, I think probably like putting out an album, you know what I mean?
100%. That's a great analogy, man. I'm so curious then, because the cinematography in this film is incredible, especially, knowing where you shot it and where it's supposed to be. It's immaculate. What was it like for you, being a first-time filmmaker and then going in, and I know you had an editor, but like having to edit your own work, because like for me, when I do something, it's so hard for me to remove myself from it, like ego wise, because like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I can't truly feel like I can't be objective because I'm just so emotionally involved, and I know what went into that take, and that take was that. So what was that process like, especially having had the play, like this lands there, and like trying to kind of breathe life or let it exist in new ways that it might not have in the play?
Well, I got some really good advice. One of the best being that, like, I think I got it from Arnold Schwarzenegger, believe it or not directly. I'm just like, I picked it up a little. So let me preface that. I never spoke to Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I spoke to some real badass directors. And I've known so many. So I'm that kind of, like, I like to just take in stuff and see what works. One thing that Arnold Schwarzenegger said at one point, I think it was him, who the fuck knows, we'll credit him, was like, hire the best people and get out of the way. And then one of the directors I talked to as well echoed that sentiment. So you really have to hire the best and then trust them. And I was very lucky in that everyone from the actors to the DP to the crew, everyone was fucking great at their job. Yeah. And I know the material, I had a vision for it, I knew it, but you have to like trust the people you're with and kind of get out of their way and help guide them. So that was another thing someone said to me, is like, you're going to discover what kind of director you are. Yeah. And I'm just a very collaborative director who, I wanted to and sort of take a page from David Gordon Green, who directed Stronger, who's a good friend. Gordon Green. He's the best. And, I've shadowed him during Stronger, and just like knowing I was going to direct someday, really try to take it in. But one thing I really like that he did is that he keeps everybody, he knows how to create a set that gets the best out of everybody. And his actors are like ripe with creative energy and they feel a lot of say in how things go. Under the pretense of like, you're steering them. And, you can imagine with this cast and everybody, that's what it was. So when we're editing, it's an embarrassment of riches because it was cast so well and shot so well and all that stuff. Very few times. I mean, look, there are scenes and sequences where, due to money or time or weather, you have a very little bit. Like the opening sequence, I think I told you the story about that. It was not shot as written, but it was like a gift because it ended up deepening the whole movie. And like the majority of the footage we shot in that opening sequence, we used. So there were some times you had to do some trickery with the editing and all that stuff. But the most times, for the real impactful emotional moments, you had a huge variety of stuff you could do. I mean, look, it was hard cutting scenes and sequences that I loved that just didn't fit into it. That's always hard, but as a writer, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But I think I just had to like let it take a life of its own and really, I had a great team. The producers I worked with had done a lot more stuff than I have. My partner in this in many ways is, Bernthal, who is fucking just he's such a smart guy and so talented, but I know he works on a lot of stuff and sometimes he's frustrated because he has these ideas and then people are like, no, don't do this, stand there and do that.
Yeah.
But I was always so collaborative with him on every step of the way. And, he and I don't have he's like, look, you're directing this, but like, I love it too. Let's work together. And I would just hear people out and John would be like, what about this? And I'd be like, all right, let's try it. And, a lot of times he's fucking right. Sometimes it's not. And I'm going for something different, but that's sort of what I did is I really took in all of the feedback and all of the people I trusted and would try it. And ultimately creative Darwinism, whatever worked best, not my ego, not what I wanted, but whatever worked best under the idea of I'm steering it towards, my vision of what it was. And I thought that made me very comfortable because I thought I was intimidated by the fact that the expectation would be that I would know exactly what to do at every given moment. And sometimes I did. And sometimes more often than not, I was like, let's discover this together. Let's let it evolve. Let's give it has a life of its own. Yeah. And that was true during the whole process. Yeah. So I feel like it lent the final film, a level of like immediacy and authenticity that didn't feel so invented and feel so forced into the narrative. I mean, you'll see as someone who has performed the play and knows the play very well, I'm sure you see a lot of the zinger, funny or show-stopping lines from the play in the movie and they're thrown away. Maybe you don't even hear them or notice them. They're there, but it's just so much more naturalistic and grounded as opposed to, internalized. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's there, but it's almost more done. I think the movie ended up taking a much darker minor chord.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what I didn't know how this movie, to be blunt, would adapt from a play to a movie and if it could be done well. And when I was with you guys at that screening, I was like, this succeeded in all levels and in ways I didn't even think like possible to create. And I'm just so proud of you, man. I mean,
thanks. Appreciate that.
It especially knowing the narrative from seeing you do it with, Badge and James, and then, me doing it and then seeing it done. And it's just like, it's immortal, man. And this film it's just so wonderful. I'm curious, for the listeners out there, because the people that tend to listen to my show, are very supportive and listen sometimes to, believe it or not, what I have to say. What would you have someone do who's going to see the film? Would you have them read the play first, see the film, or see the film then read the play?
I think if it was up to me, I'd have them see the film first and then maybe read the play.
I agree.
I think it's a really good read, but not everyone knows how to read a play or enjoys reading a play. But I would say watch the movie, have that singular experience, and then a completionist may enjoy reading the play to sort of see how it's evolved. I mean, that philosophy I was saying, I very much took to heart in terms of adapting as well, which was, this play came out in 2011 and the technology it deals with is very specific to that thing.
Totally.
It's almost become like a period piece now if you perform.
Isn't that funny?
and you look and you're like, wow, look how much technology has changed since 2013 or whatever, which is sort of the last time I was editing. I edited when it transferred from LA to New York. I updated.
Got it.
Updated it to 2013. Like in the program in 2013 when it was done, it's like present day. But now that's, almost a decade later, how much has changed, how much has stayed the same. And it's not, I think it's even more informative. Whereas the movie, once again, contemporized.
Yeah.
And the technology and the themes are more relevant now than they ever were. And the discussions that the material brings up is more relevant now than ever. And that was part of the journey of it. And, for a little bit, it was like, well, do I make it a period piece? And then it's like, well, there's the financial thing is like, how do you make it authentic in such a short time ago?
Yeah, it's 10 years isn't enough, it's just like, so, yeah.
It's not quite, it is, but it isn't. But it was more like, I got hung up on the idea of, when the play originally came out, the characters were like, not yet 40. They were like 37. So it was that time in your life before culture sees you as like middle-aged.
Yeah.
And in particular, it was the Frank character had a daughter when he was like a senior in high school. Yeah. So it was like that stunted adolescence of responsibility. And it was just, that was in there. So obviously that's not relevant in the movie because the actors are all in their 40s.
Yeah. But
it didn't matter. Like that thing, I just let that go. And the rewards of making it modern, not just, more feasible to do financially, but thematically and everything, just it became much more resonant to have to contort for any reason like that.
And when you did this run in New York, that was the last run you did of play, right?
That I acted in the play, correct. It was 2013. Yeah.
So when
I did like a reading at one point at a fundraiser, me and Bernthal and
nice.
And Michael Redfield, maybe a couple of years after that. But yeah, it had been a while.
That final night, did you know that you were going to direct that one day and adapt it, or did you not know yet?
I mean, John and I had always talked about from the minute we did it at Pico Boulevard in LA, like in the middle of the night, we were always like, this would be a cool movie. And, John's career was starting out. He was about to do the second season of Walking Dead. And, I was trying to get my shit together. I had like 5 jobs trying to pay the bills and doing PR and writing plays and screenplays and all this stuff. And it was always like, yeah, that'd be great. It seemed like a pie in the sky. And then it just became more and more feasible. And then it took us about 3 years to kind of get it all together and do the version that we wanted to. And, we got Rick Rosenthal, who's sort of the lead producer, who's done, he directed Bad Boys. The guy's like done tons of shit. So his company, he came in, they found some money, and then Peter Abrams and Noah Rothman, who's my manager, who I actually met Noah and John Bernthal the same night, which was only the second reading of the material at my friend Roxanne Hart's house. And it's funny because the guy, Packy, didn't show up. So Roxanne's husband, Phil Kasnoff, who is like late 50s at the time, real handsome dude, great actor. He played Packy. He was awesome, by the way. Bernthal played Sueno in that reading, and Noah was there, and Noah came up to me afterwards. And at the time he was like, in his mid-20s, he was working for 3 Arts and stuff. And he's like, I really want to work with you. I'm going to be a manager. And I was like, okay, whatever, kid. Now here is my manager. But, Noah sort of, one of his skills is really like making impossible things happen, sort of out of the box shit. So he kind of got this all together, and, we were always like passionately about it, but it was like finding the time and doing it. And then, like a lot of these things, I mean, it's like you put a play together, you talk about it, you get it, you do readings, but then until you plant that flag in the ground and you have some real funds, it's just talk. So then it became real. And then the sort of, maybe about a 6-7 month process of me and John and Shay rehearsing and just, fucking with the script and really grinding it down. And so it was almost a blessing that it took that long, because as I had other deadlines and John's shooting stuff and Shay shooting stuff, we just kept finding times to come back together and continue to refine it.
And for those who don't know, Shay was not in the original play. John was, you were as well. So what was it like having somebody new who's obviously an incredible actor? Did that really kind of lighten and bring life to things that you hadn't seen before in different iterations of Packy?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that when you make an indie film, and even this movie at the budget level that it is, there's still pressure to cast names. Maybe even more so. If you do $100 million, robot war movie, that's special effects driven, maybe you can put fresh faces in there, because like people aren't going to see that. They're going to see the robot dinosaurs. But in an indie movie, to get the investors comfortable and all that, you want to have recognizable names. There's a great pressure. So it's always a game of finding the best actors you can. Obviously, you have John Bernthal, who's like one of my best friends and one of my favorite actors of all time, who checks a huge box off of that, but you want to fill it out. And, of that list of people, Bernthal really knew Shay, and I hadn't really known him other than his work. And he's like, dude, this guy's awesome. He gave him the script. Shay flipped out over it. We had a couple conversations. I remember I was doing like a production rewrite in Boston, and he called and he's like, hey man, so we doing this? And I was like, oh my God, I love this guy. So, but he and I became very friendly fast. John and him had a certain rapport. It became instant chemistry. Shay was initially, intimidated, because he's like, you guys have been living in this so long. Like, John and I start at third base just with our relationship. Right. We aren't these characters, but we have that chemistry. It's chemistry. I don't know how it was when you did the production, but like, you know, you can get great actors, but if they don't have that chemistry, those three guys is as important as like a romantic comedy getting the two leads have sparks.
1,000,000,000,000%. And the nights that it wasn't there, things didn't land the way they should have, you know?
You just have to have that. You get away with it. If the subtext with those three guys is love and kinship, you start to dig deeper, and you're not like, oh, they're actors saying these lines. There's these like politically incorrect lines or whatever. But then you really get the statement it's making, which is the movie being about love and the play being about love ultimately. So Shay came in, and I mean, as you know, Shay, I know you do, and his level of layered, meticulous work, you know, paint brushstroke by brushstroke until it deepens and deepens, was just a joy to see. So he had certain stress that we didn't have, which is he has to invent the character in his version. And, you know, I've loved every cast I have acted with. You know, Michael Redfield did an incredible job as Packy. He was very funny and sort of soft and nymph-like and cuddly. You know, PJ Ransone did his version, which was like more like scrappy, like Chihuahua guy, like nervous energy, which was great. And then Shay brought his version, which really dovetailed so nicely into the film, because Shay's version, a lot of the humor that like Michael Redfield would bring the house down, it didn't fit in the movie. And Shay brought more of he just brought in more of a grounded direction, more of a layered, tragic direction, more complicated. And in particular, I had always sort of hinted at an innuendo very subtly that Packy is very sexually ambiguous.
Yeah.
And Shay really, you know, fearlessly went there. And knowing Shay, as you do, who he is, how politically progressive he is, how interested he is in exploring those stories truthfully, he really went for it. And you know, of the few people who've seen the show, they're like, or the movie, and they're like, so what was that up with Packy? I'm like, I literally have him hiding in a fucking closet in the movie. How do you not understand the sort of the subtlety we're doing? You know what I mean? But so Shay's layered, unfucking believable work. So you show up and the camera starts rolling, and it's just he is that guy. Yeah. And John and like those three performances, really, in terms of a director and a performer, they're all orbiting around each other.
Yeah.
So it's like you just socket them in, and then everybody, there's an organic process where those three performances start to adjust. Around each other. And Shay, I mean, like there were some big laugh lines in the play that as we're rehearsing or even on the day, Shay will do them and he's like, I gotta be honest, it's just not feeling right. Yeah. And look, some actors will tell you that and you're like, you're being fucking lazy. It's not that with Shay. It's like he is so far beyond lazy that he's like, listen, I'm telling you, I will do the work and lasso this line in and make it as organic as I can, but I'm feeling it. It just feels false narratively. And 9 times out of 10, he was right. And I started to, some of those bigger laugh lines went away or were thrown away. Yeah. And his humor and pathos of his performance really creates just a beautiful, heartfelt performance.
That was so beautifully put. I really completely agree with that. And I'm curious then, man, you know, we spoke about this in the first episode, but, you know, once you get to the marketing and distribution stage, there's the whole, you know, PC police and everyone being so scared. And I just had this great producer, Andy Horowitz, on, who produced Suicide Squad, great guy. And, you know, we were talking about it and how they deal with it. And it's so tough right now because, you know, to be truthful, you know, sometimes is to not be correct and politically correct, because like, life doesn't happen in PC. Kids get cancer. You know what I mean? Like things, really bad things happen. And it's how we deal with them, good or bad, and how we surmount these demons that it's just like, that's what art is, in my opinion. And what was that like for you as a director, as a producer, as a screenwriter, playwriter, you know, all the above, man? Was that a thing that you had to deal with or no?
Well, I mean, look, I think this is a unique situation in that it came from an art form of theater that is very on the cutting edge of social movements, and it's been anointed by that. So I had that confidence, and I knew it was battle tested in that regard. And, you know, obviously you're in a time where I'm never worried about how an audience will react to this material. I don't like it when people say, you can't say that. And my response would be like, no, you shouldn't say that irresponsibly. But if it's in service of a theme, artistic or otherwise, you should be able to say that. Yeah. As long as you're doing it on purpose and you're cognizant of it. You know, one of my good best friends, Kemp Powers, I don't know if you've ever had him on your show, but great playwright. You know, I've been friends with him for a long time, and he wrote One Night in Miami. And
yeah, I saw you post about that.
Love the dude. And the sort of the beauty of my relationship, our relationship has always been, and, you know, he's a black dude from Brooklyn. I'm a white dude from just north of Boston. Yeah. And we always hit it off because class wise, we're very similar environments that we grew up in. And we both share a love of the arts, but we also had upbringings that were completely antithetical to like an artistic upbringing. But from our relationship early on, it was always like we could say anything to each other, even sometimes in a darkly comic way, and totally. In particular about race. And I learned so much by being able to have a non-judgmental friend and bust balls and do that and just speak frankly about stuff. And that was the root of our relationship. And, you know, he's so smart, but, you know, you have a friend like that who, and sometimes, by the way, I would have misconceptions of things and he'd be like, bro, you're fucking wrong. And I would be like open and listen to that, but it comes out of love. Yeah. So I view a lot of this stuff as that. Like if I'm not seeing something, I'm open to that. So one thing he said early on was like, it always bothers him as a black man when he would see an independent film drop the N-word if it has nothing to do thematically with the story. He's like, you have these like whatever, these white, edgy white criminals, and they just start dropping the N-bomb left and right. And what the filmmaker is doing is using that word as a shorthand for street cred and edginess and all that stuff. And he's like, that's just lazy and it's bullshit. And I took that to heart. So I was always like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I don't ever want to use a chemical in the recipe that is intentionally, lazily reinforcing all that kind of shit. That being said, especially in Small Engine Repair, the essence, the theme of the movie and the play, but even more so the movie, is to explore these things. Yeah. And to actually have the audience submerged in a world that is unfiltered. Like, pull the curtain back. Like, let's get real with each other. Yeah. And it's not done in an untruthful way, but it has to be done in a smart way. Like, you can be savage if you're smart. So there's a lot of language in situations that is, you know, I don't use lightly, and you're not used as throwaway jokes, but it's used there with a very clear tactical purpose. Yeah. To gain an experience. So, you know, I don't think anyone should say you can never use that. And I don't think that's what Kemp was ever saying. It's just like, you got to be smart about it. You know how like Revenge of the Nerds, like back when you were a kid and you watched that, like that has some real icky stuff in it. Yeah. But it's done in like a lazy, jokey way, like high five way of the time. So, you know, there are some elements in Small Engine Repair that are offensive, but they're done in service of a deeper meaning, which again, theater always, you look, man, theater is like, theater, you don't make a lot of money typically. It's not a mass art that's consumed, but the benefit was always that you're not censored and you can go to provocative places and do that. Yeah. You know, I know film is a little different. You know, it's mass, it's got to be mass consumed, but the intent here with our movie was never to make the Big Mac. It was never to make the mainstream meal that everyone sees and forgets. But my biggest fear was to create something that people would be dismissive of or lukewarm to, or no reaction. Yeah. But I was like, go bold or go home and create something that's emotionally impactful and engages a discussion, which is, to me, is what great art can do. Not all art can do it. It's fucking exhausting if everything you watch is like doing that. Yeah. But I felt like let's do it. And by the way, I consume all kinds of art, but you know, sometimes moving the needle in sort of a cultural way or just engaging a discussion you got to get a little dirty and a little raw sometimes. So like, in terms of political correctness, you know, again, that term is weaponized. It means a certain thing. You know, I know my audience. Yeah. I think sometimes there's a challenge in terms of the gatekeepers, like who will set up roadblocks and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm too early in the process to really know. But look, I didn't make a $200 million movie that everybody needs to love. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. You're very aware.
But you start getting into that whole mechanism, and it's designed for that. I think it's, similar to coming out with like a punk rock album. Like you don't need to sell 10 million albums.
And it wouldn't be that cool if you did,
No, it wouldn't be cool.
Yeah.
That's just not what this is. I mean, look, I think my greatest fear of this film is that people don't get it. Like, you don't have to like it, but just understand the intent and the theme and put the work into it. I just don't want people to be lazy in their knee-jerk response to it. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, inevitably some will, I guess, but like, that's all. When you put this much work into something, you're like, I hope that people, and in my experience, they have, and they will feel challenged by the material and really get what it's about.
Well, you absolutely achieved it, man. I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you 9 years later if this narrative didn't have such a profound impact on me. And now I know it's going to happen with the world. But I mean, it's just, I wish people could see the play in some ways in this, and because of how different it is, but I'm just so fucking proud of you, dude. Like, this is a beautiful piece of art, and it's so wonderful. And now you get to like hang it up on the shelf finally, man. You did it, despite the worldwide pandemic, despite every fucking obstacle in the world, you did it, dude. And I'm just so proud of
you. Well, I really appreciate that. And again, I just need to get, John and I were just talking, and we're like, it's coming out, come what may. And it feels so good to just hope to move beyond that. Cause like this thing was done, a year and a half ago. And like hardly anyone has seen it. And, I'm sure they've sent it out now to reviewers or blah, 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 all this stuff. We're certainly doing a ton of press on it, but like, you don't make a movie for that.
Yeah.
You make it so that people will enjoy it. And I look at myself and I think about the movies that have been so impactful to me. And in many ways, I just discovered them at some period of my life when I needed to see them. And I think I'm just excited to put something out there that, people will just, 5 years from now, someone will check it out and be like, wow, I kind of heard about this, but I never saw it or whatever. And I'm excited to see how, it evolves. And as my body of work continues, and John's and Shay's and Jordana and everyone continues to have that. You have the completionists who go back and check it out. So it's out there, and that I'm just really excited to be part of, to finally be putting something that I feel this is so distinctly my vision out within the pantheon of the medium that I love so much, which is movies.
It's going to come back tenfold for you, which guides me into my next question is, what's next for you? Do you feel the urge to, I know you're writing, you got the Hulk Hogan thing, right? Or is that done?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much done, but that was, which I wrote with Scott Silver, and, that's, we're pretty much done that. But I mean, I'm working on a ton of stuff.
Nice.
And I've never not been busy. I'm dying to direct again.
I was going to say, what's on your periphery?
I loved it. I mean, being on the set of that movie was the first time I felt like my whole brain was active.
Yeah.
It was just all there. And I felt phases of that, acting in something or being on stage or writing something. But that was the first time it was like all there. And it was kind of like, look, I love working with directors, Andrew Block, who did the original version of the play, and then Joe Bonney, who's become a frequent collaborator in the theater world, David Gordon Green, all these great actors, great directors that I've worked with in film, Frank Darabont and like Pete Berg, I did a movie with him. Like, I just love that. And when you're writing for someone that you really respect, it's really fun. It's a fun zone, but it's kind of like, it's like me, to some extent, like doing renovations on our house. It's like my wife's the boss, I have great ideas, but like her ideas are always better. So when you're writing for someone else, you're empowering them and you're collaborating in it. But at the end of the day, the director has to make those choices. So being in that seat, that loop of all of that, I've never felt so fucking present and alive. And I'm really excited to get back in there and do it again.
For the one day I was on, you seemed to be one of the happiest dudes in the world, man. It was a pleasure to watch.
Oh, that's right. When you were in that bar scene, it was like 3 Suenos in the in the scene. So that was great. I mean, that was a fun day. That was like one of the lighter days in terms of, I just needed a little, as you see in the movie, that I shot so much good shit there.
Yeah,
so
it had to get. Yeah, it was so good.
And that was actually some of the stuff that day that John and Badge and PJ and our really good buddy Sean Kerrigan, some of the banter that those guys had was fucking hilarious. It just didn't fit in the movie. Yeah, and I'm like, God, please be a big enough hit that I can release
get the reels
Criterion Blu-ray and have all those outtakes. Yeah. I mean, there's like an hour of material there. Bernthal just being a jackass. It's amazing.
I fucking loved it, dude. That's so great. Do you right now, I mean, do you have anything lined up in the theater world, or do you kind of feel done with that for a little while?
No, I mean, look, theater's suffering more than anything in COVID. I have some play ideas. I'm dying to get back into theater. I love it so much. You know, did you ever see Rules of Seconds? That play?
I read it.
So that, you know, we were gearing up to do a production in New York. I had a great producer on it, and interest was sort of building up before this thing hit. So now who the fuck knows? Yeah. But and I have a couple of new ideas, but you know, it's just finding the time and juggling all that stuff. And you know,
well, dude, I'm so proud of you, man. I mean, I'm trying to do the writing myself now because, you know, this fucking acting game, it doesn't come easy. So yeah, man.
Oh yeah, I know. I hear that.
So
well, writing is a great thing. You know, it's something you can control. It's something you can do. It's great discipline. And it's like nothing bad will come out of it. And then maybe you have a knack, maybe things click. You know, I think my advice to you, and just knowing the two muscles, is that the way you build a character and things evolve and change. I mean, you really got to look at writing as like construction and not like sitting there and harnessing the gods and creating art and beauty. It's really about building something.
Totally, which has been tough for me in sobriety, you know, so because I used to drink and it would just come out, and now the self-edit thing is something one day I'll have to get advice from you about. But dude, I mean, where can we get the word out about this? I know I'll post this on Instagram, I'll tag it, but like, where can people that want to see the movie check the movie out?
I mean, it comes out in theaters September 10th. I think you just have to like Google to see where it is near you. It's playing at a bunch of, you know, most major cities have a handful of theaters that is playing out. So
like, you know, the New York's, DC's of the world. And
absolutely.
You got it.
Those for sure. And then a lot of other places too, you know, like, you know, well,
I'm going to go, obviously.
San Francisco, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, go opening night, and then let me know what people think. Look, again, I don't know. I don't know if people are going to movies. You know, I don't know if people are going to gritty indie movies right now. Like, I don't know. So let's see what goes.
Well, I'm going to make sure they go. This podcast, dude, you guys heard it first.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
All right, dude. Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Have a good one.